Welcome to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. We are the go-to resource for leaders looking to greatly improve their communication skills, whether it's one-on-one interactions, team settings, public speaking, or digital communication. By improving these skills, leaders can create stronger connections and drive positive change within their organizations. Each and every episode, we sit down with experts from various fields from around the world, just like you're grabbing a coffee with them, to dive into real practical conversations. Our goal is to help you transform your communication skills so you can lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, and make a lasting impact. So go grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's learn together. Well, how do you lead in a way that drives results, keeps people at the center? In a world sometimes obsessed with metrics, how do you make sure your leadership still has soul? Well, welcome to the Speak with People podcast. Great leaders just don't speak. They connect, inspire, and lead through healthy communication. I'm so glad that you're here. Our guest today is one I've been looking forward to for a long time. He's the author of The Leader's Soul, James Shin. He's a global executive. We were just talking about his travels internationally. It's just incredible. He's written this incredible book. He's led massive transformations at world-class companies. But his real passion is showing leaders how to connect their success to something deeper. And so I know that this conversation's going to challenge you to lead differently and lead with soul. James, welcome to the Speak with People podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jason. I'm so honored. I look at the past guests, and oh man, there are so many wonderful people. So I really appreciate it, and I'm so excited to be on your podcast. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, before we hop into this interview, this conversation, I would love for you to just take a minute, if you could just share a little bit of your story with our listeners, who you are, what you do, what's got you to this place.
So you can tell by my southern accent, I'm originally from the South, South Korea. So I came to the States 31 years ago to get my PhD at Penn State. And then I decided to stay here. So I spent more than 25 years in industry. Majority of that was within a Caterpillar. And so, as you can tell, life is a journey of continuous learning and growth. I went through challenges and changes, big ones along the way, moving from Seoul, Korea to United States. Getting on different jobs, and then relocated to different locations in the States and Asia. And so I learned a lot from those experiences. In a sense, those experiences were, sink or swim moments. But not only did I swim, I also learned a lot as well. So I wanted to share those experiences with other people, especially for young professionals. So that was the reason I wrote the book. So,
oh boy, I love that. Was it? Growing up in South Korea and then moving to Penn State, was that transition difficult? Was it wonderful? Was it hard? I'd love to know just a little bit more about that transition.
actually mixed. So I wrote that in the introduction as well. So I'd never been outside Korea at the time, and my English wasn't as good as now. Didn't know the culture very well, but there was so much excitement, about that journey. So when I went there, I met with so many good students from all over the world. That's when I learned about diversity, friendship, and then also leadership as well. So there was difficult moments because of the lack of experiences, language, capability, but also there is excitement and good things about people as well. So
Wow, boy, that's incredible. And so your travels, then you've lived across the states. You've done other seasons, back in other different parts of the world. Has that been hard for you to, kind of create a place of community, or has that been just an amazing opportunity living in different places? Because then, like you just talked about with your experience at Penn State, you've been able to meet so many incredible people.
right. So initially it was not easy, right? So When I graduated from Penn State, I moved to North Carolina, then Illinois, Mississippi, back into Illinois, and Korea, China, back to Illinois, and different places. So initially, it wasn't easy because you're going into unknown era, right? So, however, what I learned was there are always good people around you. So you gotta recognize them. That's the key thing I learned. So after a few times, it was more excitement for me to meet with different people and learn about them, culture. Again, lessons are basically people are people. It
Ah,
doesn't matter what culture, where they live. So it was excitement along the way. That's the main theme of my book as well. So
I love that. With Caterpillar, I've been to Peoria, Illinois a few times. Lots of Caterpillar there.
right, right. So used to be the headquarters, in Peoria, but now it's in Dallas, Texas. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah.
So for you, you wrote this powerful book, The Leader's Soul. If you could just kind of unpack for our listeners, what does leading with soul mean to you, mean for us?
So there are a few things that I want to talk about. So one is, as I mentioned, it's all about people business.
Mm,
So you got to understand the people, and then you got to surround it by good people as well. So you got to recognize them, you got to work with them, and then also you got to develop future leaders and future generations. It's not all about you; it's about future as well. So that's one people side. And then another aspect is, continuous improvement, right? So not necessarily in a business, but also personally as well. So in order to do that, first thing is you gotta know what good looks like. If you don't know what good looks like, you're gonna head in your own way. So
oof.
you gotta know you gotta know what good looks like, and then you gotta know where you are, and then make some small changes, along the way. So life is also about continuous improvement. And then another thing I talked about in the book is the work life in a balance.
Mm,
It's one of the hated words, right? So work life in a balance, but reality is work life in balance, because if you spend more time on one side, you're gonna lose on the other side. But it's not static though; it moves, back and forth. So in order to achieve, work life in a balance, um, you gotta be very disciplined, disciplined to what you do. So basically, eliminate waste in what you do, because time is limited, right? And then another thing is, in order to do that, you gotta have good mental and physical health. You gotta
mm,
maintain that to achieve work life in a balance. And then one other thing is, we are in the very busy world, all the electric noises and stuff. So once in a while, you gotta disconnect and pause and look around. That will help you to be successful, and then help you to help other people as well, not just you. So those are some of the main themes in my books.
oof. Powerful. Uh, Before we hit record, we were talking just about China and our trip to China, and when we came for our adopted son. And one of the things that struck me, I love history. Uh, any chance I get, I was just in Boston. Would love to
Right.
see the history of when the U.S. started. But when I was in China, I couldn't sleep, so I would just walk, and I would walk places that bridges that were built so many years ago. So different than the U.S. or Boston, or I mean, it's great. We have 250 great years of history, but a country like that, as you've worked across cultures, with the different companies and with what you do now, what has helped you really walk into those environments where people are from all different kind of places with the right framework, with the right mind, with being able to learn and lead them. I just love for you to kind of dive into that a little bit.
So whenever I went into new place, or working environment, or even traveling, And one is obviously I try to do some pre-study about the location and all that stuff, so I can have conversation with people there as well. But when I get there, I'm just curious about people. So interact. So you gotta interact with people, right? So you ask questions, trying to genuinely understand who they are, what they are, what they like, what they don't like, and then that connects each other, which helps the tremendously in other things. So basically, again, curious about people, interact with people, and they share time and other things with them. So
That's powerful. Yeah, that curiosity is so incredibly important. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What I love about your book, 52 Reflections, and you read one, it doesn't take a week to get through it, and it's a powerful punch. Is there one or two that are your absolute? I know it's tough. It's like asking which one of your favorite kids, which one of your kids is your favorite, but is there one or two that, okay, these are the ones that, rise to the top?
so that's a really good question. So let me pick a few. So one is the starfish story.
Mhm.
So there are so many starfish on the beach, and one kid throwing starfish at the ocean, and then old gentleman saying, "Oh, it's useless because there are so many of them." And then kid said, "Oh, I made a difference to that one, right?" So the point is, as a leader, you got to make a small difference with different people or different situations. So that's one of the things that I like. Another one is there are actually very three very personal stories in there. One about my daughter, my mom, and then nature. So it's just tough to pick one of those, but then I can say just my personal stories. But also, two things. One is the I use the Mark Twain's quote. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than what you did. So take a chance, experience, especially for young people. If I go back to my 20s and 30s, I would like to take more chances, right? So that's one. And then the final one, that's chapter 52. At the end of the day, if you did your best, and that's it, and
Mm,
don't regret what you did. You had a good day, you had a good life. So those are the few things that I wanted to share from
I
the
love
book.
that. I love that. Let's go. We'll go back to the beginning of the conversation a little bit because you talked about people, and we live in a time of age where it seems like we're spending less and less time with people. We're on our device. I mean, the
Right.
average person picks it up 350 times a day. And we have all of these distractions all around. Yet, even with all this amazing advances in technology and AI, we still need the people connection. And so, maybe talk to us a little bit about what you've just kind of learned about, you know, uh, making sure that you're centered on connecting with people, and how to balance some of the technology and all of those other kind of things.
Yeah, so let me start it in a one story. So I love watching documentaries. There is one documentary called Scotch Golden Dream. It's about one master distiller, and one section they ask different people, ask them about what the best dram they drank before. But every single one said they didn't talk about whiskey. They talk about moment, environment when they drank whiskey with. So
Mm,
it can be like parents, friends in front of fireplace. So they remember that that moment with people and environment rather than actual whiskey. So working living, I think, is the same way. So when I look back my career challenging times, I don't necessarily remember what task we faced, but I remember the people that I worked with.
mm,
Same thing in life as well. So the point is, So you got to build that relationships intentionally, either at work or outside of work as well. It can be a club or some fun events. Or it can be happy hours. You build that relationship, and then that also can cause the creativity as well. So in AI era, and AI can replace technical stuff, right?
Mm.
It can, but it cannot replace humanity and creativity. So build that relationship. You will be inspired by so many different things by interacting with different people. So again, build that relationship at work. It can be happy hour. It can be some fun events or some fun clubs. But also outside of work, I intentionally try to meet with all the friends as well. So that's why when I went to Korea this time, I had a short trip to Japan to see one of my friends in Japan. I'm doing that in the States as well. Reconnect with other people. That helps me actually. So
Boy, that's
anyway,
amazing. Boy, that's amazing. And it's my wife and I actually talk about it a lot because we live in Tampa, Florida, and so just an hour and a half one way is Orlando, where a lot of people save up their vacation time so they could come and go to Disney and all that. And we think about sometimes some of our past vacations where we kind of went out of our way to say hi to somebody we haven't seen in a while. And how sometimes we're like, "Oh, we just saw on Facebook this family was an hour from us. Like we would have
right,
drove over." I
right.
think for some people it's just a rare thought these days. Like we get so focused on this is what I have to do, whether it's work or vacation or the kids play, that we kind of forget about those peripherals. And if we, like you say, lean in to that community and those people, powerful things can happen in our own leadership.
Absolutely. So again, like going to the Disney World and Disneyland, it's good thing for the family and for the kids. But sometimes you can go out on the adventure to do different things without any structure, right? So you can go to certain places and walk the streets and just observe different things, or you can go hike. And last year I had two purposes. I went to Japan to climb Mount Fuji,
Mm.
but I did that along with one of my old friends in Japan. So I connected with him. Hey, let's go climb Mount Fuji, and then he agreed. So I went there. We climbed. It wasn't easy, but I was able to reconnect with him. It was absolutely fantastic experience climbing. There are a lot of lessons learned. And actually, by the way, I listened to the John Donnelly's podcast. The Kilimanjaro is my next goal, but so there are so many lessons from that. So it's not like a well structured vacation or a trip, but I learned a lot from there. So try it out. So
That's incredible. And you talk about climbing the mountain so nonchalantly. I mean, that's an incredible feat. Like that's and to do it with a longtime friend. That's amazing.
yeah, absolutely. So the I was in I was in good shape, but then there are certain period I traveled so much, so I felt out of shape. So I had to prepare myself, to climb Mount Fuji. So that's one thing. But when I climbed, initially I felt so good, so I climbed so fast, and then I realized that I couldn't do it, so I had to slow down, pace myself, and then I was able to get to the summit. So that's another lesson. And then I ran into another climber. She was very struggling, so I slowed down further to help her to get to the top. So helping other people to achieve same goal was another lesson from that experience. So
Wow, just incredible. You at the beginning you talked about this work life balance, and you talked about being very disciplined. And so how talk to us about how connected our soul is to the disciplined life. Because I know in my own life there are seasons where I've got a very bad back. I've used that as an excuse, you know, uh, and I'm missing a disc. It's like I've got real things, but I've used that as an excuse to overeat, to not be disciplined. And I know for me, when those seasons hit, my soul is
Mhm.
not as healthy. And so would love to know your thoughts about that disciplined life and what it does for to bring alive your soul.
So the basically you gotta I would approach that from the kind of engineering perspective. So when you look at time and in the book I talk about the OEE as well, overall equipment effectiveness. So machine can run for 100 hours, how much of that actually machine is in operating, right? So you look at the same way yourself. So you have 24 hours, and then you got to understand where you spend time on, and then there's area. Oh, I'm wasting too much time here. Then you can focus on that. Now your case is a little bit different, and maybe if you're not feeling well, then there's a secondary action you're gonna take. Try to be healthy, right?
Sure.
But then what I meant was like just purely looking at time where you can reduce waste. So one of my leaders that I respected a lot, he always his meeting is only 30 minutes, not more than that, 30
Hmm.
minutes, and then send him the pre-material in advance, and then specify what you want to talk about, what you want to get out of the meeting, so that he could understand what the purpose was, and then be prepared and then quit, not more than 30 minutes. So that was one of the ways he just disciplined, reducing the waste, and then he can spend time on something else more productive. Now again, secondary is mental and physical health to do that, because if you're not mentally and physically health, it's just tough to be in a discipline. So
Wow. Wow. So good. That's so powerful. What maybe talk to us about a time where you saw, leading with soul produced better results than just strategy or just a checklist or, just barking out orders, especially for our listeners who lead people, they lead a team. What does that look like in their team leadership?
yeah, so there are so many examples. So a lot of challenges, we didn't know we could get it done. And then, but, once we had, common goal, and then we figured out, we jumped in, and then we, took care of the inner business. But one simple example, that's not, I wasn't a team lead. And early on in my, career, we are preparing for a huge, conference, company wide. And then we needed to have team building exercise, and HR team couldn't come up with one. So the leader asked me and then another guy, and hey, can you come up with team building exercise? I'm Asian. I wasn't born here. The other guy is white guy. Grew up in Midwest. Totally different people, and then we came up with fantastic team building exercise. It was so success. So the point is, one is obviously a diversity. So again, different thoughts and different background created great results. But also uh, we didn't know we could do it, but because of our relationship, we put things together, and then we achieved goal. So that's just a small example, but there are so many examples that I can think of. So
I love that. I love that. That's so great. Talk to us a minute because you've worked at great companies, you've consulted, you've done, incredible things. I hear quite a bit from our listeners who are working at places that they feel like is just killing their soul. Whether they have a micromanaging supervisor, whether the pace is just, they just can't keep up, whether they just feel like, another number on the sheet and nobody really truly has taken the time. Talk to us just about some steps we can take as leaders if we kind of feel like we're working for a place that's, crushing our soul.
again, I would start with the some analysis. So your soul is being crushed. Then understand, you gotta understand what the root cause is, or root causes are. Is that your boss? Is that your company? Is that the external economic conditions? So depending on that, and there can be different solutions, right? So I talk about in the book as well. If it was your boss, and they're saying you can pick your nose, but you cannot pick your boss, right? So um, temporarily you cannot change the boss, then you got to have some frank conversation with him or her, and it can go either way. I mean, the person can take it well and then help you along the way, but if that's not the case, then you got to find alternative as well. Also, it can be the companies culture, not necessarily one person. Then you got to make a decision, big decision. So if you realize that you took the wrong train, you just got to get off sooner than later. But again, depending on the root cause, what root cause is, there can be different solutions. So stop and think about what's causing that situation. So
Boy, that's good. Oh, that's good. Uh, just curious because we also have a fair amount of entrepreneurs listening. I'm someone who started a company 3 years ago. What led to you starting your own? You worked for some global companies, and you branched out on your own. Talk to us about that journey.
So the main reason was actually, personal. So we wanted to move to, Houston, Texas area for, family reasons. So because of that, I had to travel, weekly. So one is in a personal side, but then secondary reason was I have had, different, functional experiences, operations, Six Sigma, supply chain, procurement. And so I wanted have an environment where I can utilize all of them, but also at the same time to develop other people as well. So solution was okay, consulting business may be the one form of doing that. So I took a chance, and then um, I'm doing okay for now. So
That's wonderful. That is fantastic. Talk to us about maybe somebody working for a company where the environment's just a constant change. They never know what's happening. One day it changes, the next day that changes. Changed. How can leaders operate? Uh, you know, have a healthy soul, keep focused in those kind of environments.
so as a leader or as the person in the group.
Oh,
So I
I'd
think
say,
that's yeah.
yeah, go for both. Yeah.
So I think that that's the generally when that happens, that's a leadership issue. So I as I mentioned before, and you gotta have the what you gotta know what good looks like. So I try to have the PDCA plan, do, check, and action. So you have goal, right, and then you gotta evaluate where you are, and then is it getting better, worse, and etc. And then okay, what the additional actions needed to achieve that. So once you have it in a process, then even though you have some noises daily, certain things you got to do it. I mean, it's urgent and you got to do it, but you got to have the core, goals and actions, all the time along the way. So, as a leader, as an organization, I believe that, you got to have that one. As person in the group, it's more challenging, obviously, because you're not the person who leads the organization. But I would have that conversation with your leader, not in a group setting. Generally, one on one is better to have that conversation. So
Mm.
share that thoughts, and then I think be specific, because like if you talk about it in a general sense, conversation may not go in the right direction. So bring up some specific examples where you would suggest different creative ways to do it. You can start there. Also, you can bring in the change agent as well, meaning in your group, and you think that those people are on the same page with you, and then you gotta have that force together. So
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Boy, that's great. As we kind of round the corner of the interview, maybe if you could give us, one piece of advice to the leaders who maybe feel stuck, between, okay, I've got this pressure because I've got this position and I've, got to do this because like we talked about before, it provides and those kind of things. But then, I don't really feel like it's my purpose and I'd rather, kind of do something that, launches me into more of my purpose. Any advice to those leaders who are, kind of on that teeter totter trying to figure that out?
So the maybe it may be counter intuitive, but um, in that moment, stop and pause and have that reflections, or do whatever you like. Meaning, it can be running, it can be drawing, whatever. So you have the moment. So, but it's intuitive because okay, I gotta go do more rather than stop and doing it. And the reason I say that is if you do that and your head is clear on what you want to do. So have that moment. It can be just one time only, but maybe do it regularly along the way. You set aside certain time, have a stop and pause, either reflect or do whatever you like to do, like hobbies and stuff. So
That's powerful. Powerful. Well, before we let you go, let me ask you a couple rapid fire questions. We're building this online library of sorts, and for our listeners to be able to go and get new ideas. As you listen to speakers, people who, either whether it's a keynote or a TED talk or whatever it is there just a speaker that continually stands out, speaks into your life, and who you highly recommend?
um, there are so many people, but based on recent reading, just she wrote in a book, Grit, Grit. I forgot her name. So I would recommend her book as well, Grit, and so it's just powerful as well. So sometimes, and you gotta continue your journey, although you face challenges. So that's what I would that person I would recommend. So.
I love that. And we'll put that in the show notes. And is there a podcast that, if you're a podcast listener, not everybody is, but you just kind of keep going back to because it just has, some really great information and great thoughts for you?
So the I recently discovered this channel, the Audacious Life by Audley Stevenson. So there's a lot of life and leadership lessons from that podcast as well. So there's one person I really liked, so I posted on the LinkedIn as well. So but it's not just that one. And your podcast is so fantastic. And as I mentioned, I like John Gallagher's episode, John Donnelly, and there are so many good host, guests and stories from your podcast. So I highly recommend your podcast as well. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And so, to our listeners, we'll put the link in the show notes, the Leader Soul. We'll make sure we put this in our weekly email, the communication guide, and we'll put it in the Facebook group. And James, where else can we send our listeners to find out more about you? What's the best place for them to connect?
So I don't have many social medias for this one, but I'm on the LinkedIn. That's where I share my thoughts on leadership, life and other things. So that's main one that I use. So you can connect me on the LinkedIn, and then also if you have any questions, if you want to share ideas, and then you can send me the message on LinkedIn as well. So.
Boy, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for this time. This has been absolutely incredible. I was just thinking about the back of your book, and it says, "What if the greatest life lessons weren't found in textbooks or boardrooms, but in everyday moments, in a walk by the pond, difficult conversation, simple quote that strikes the heart." This is so incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Such an established leader with just, an amazing resume who just has taught us so much about the soul and our own leadership. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, Jason. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Speak with People podcast. It means the world to us when you share this episode. Thanks for liking, subscribing, or following the podcast. That really does help the podcast get into more ears and into more leaders listening. Also, don't forget, we have 2 exciting resources for you. The first is go to Facebook and join the Speakers Group. This is a community designed for leaders who want to grow their communication skills. Also, go to speakwithpeople.com/skills library to access the Communication Skills Library. It is an online resource chock filled with resources that will inspire you and transform you and grow your communication skills. Thanks again for being a part of the listening community. We cannot wait for the next episode.